Yeetus that diseases. The Dank Pod Stash is back for episode 76 with multiple guests this time, all former guests, Jason Boothe, Andrew Cosgrove, and Daniel Johnson, to talk about the motherfucking apocalypse. Let's not take it that far, though. We're going to try to be reasonable and cover everything that we can in this show and try to help you out. Before we get started, though, let me remind you that the Dank Pod Stash is officially sponsored by Anarchy Lifting. It's time to get Boogaloo ready, Apocalypse ready, and in fighting shape. Greg Papanikolaou is going to get you there with personalized meal plans, training, group support, and tons of amazing fitness and motivational resources and knowledge, including the Project Sparta Facebook group. You can go to anarchyliftingcoach.com and learn more about Greg's work. When you're ready to get signed up and get fit, go to gregpapanikolaou.clickfunnels.com/opt-in. Don't worry, they will all be in the description, these links, and get started on your path to health. I'm in Project Sparta. I'm feeling great. Unfortunately, the gyms are shut down, but Greg has us all covered with at-home workouts on top of your preparations right now. So do them all. Get ready. Get fit. You're going to need it. So check out anarchyliftingcoach.com now and get after it. We also have a special offer for our listeners from friend of the show, author and content creator Shane Radliff of Liberty Under Attack Publications. You can take 10% off your order by using coupon code DANK10 at libertyunderattack.com. They have books focusing on self-liberation, freedom strategies, solutions, and more. Current books include but are not limited to #Agora, Second Realm book on strategy, Ben Stone's Sedition, Subversion, and Sabotage, and Shane's very own Vanu, A Strategy for Self-Liberation. They also offer assistance to new authors throughout the publishing process, including editing, proofreading, formatting for Kindle and paperback, and full-service audiobook productions. That's Liberty Under Attack Publications. Share your story, find your freedom. Got to shout out Bad Moon Hemp. Check out badmoonhemp.wordpress.com. It's your one-stop shop for all your handmade hemp needs. I use their beard oil and beard balm. And don't forget, y'all, these are businesses you can support during all these bullshit government shutdowns. You can support these, all your online and fam businesses and your local businesses as much as possible. Thanks for tuning back into the Dank Pod Stash. Happy to have you back. Let's get into it.
Enemy of the state.
An enemy of the state.
Enemy of the state.
Dank Pod Stash.
You're listening to Enemy of the State's Dank Pod Stash. Check out thedankpodstash.com to find every episode of the Dank Pod Stash, links to support the show via our BitBacker and Patreon, Dank Pod Stash merchandise, and much more. If you'd like to advertise on the Dank Pod Stash, email us at dankpodstash@gmail.com. Welcome back to another episode of Enemy of the State's Dank Pod Stash, episode 76. Took a break last week. Things just didn't work out between a random end-of-the-season blizzard that hit my place and knocked out power for a while and, you know, the crazy world that we live in now. So we've had a couple of weeks to think about what's going on, and there's a whole lot of bullshit, and we're going to talk about that. This episode I got Daniel Johnson back, Andrew Cosgrove back, and hopefully Jason Boothe is going to be joining us shortly, trying to pull people from different areas of the country so we can see exactly what's going down in y'all's neck of the woods, you know, get some different perspectives on this. And we'll also see what everybody thinks of the happenings with coronavirus and government and the response and National Guard and all the nonsense. So that's the plan for today. Daniel, Andrew, how you guys doing?
Good.
I am good. Good to be here.
You're looking a little chilly in the face area over there, Daniel.
I feel naked. I feel naked and exposed.
It's all right. If we go post-apocalyptic, you'll have plenty of time to grow your beard back anyways. But yeah, so
yeah, I'm just starting over.
we're talking about coronavirus, fucking obviously. Everybody knows we're going to talk about the impact of coronavirus and all that. I want to start out asking you guys, I don't think it's fake. I think it's real. There's a lot of people saying it's fake. A step down from saying it's fake, saying it's just another flu. I think that's pretty easily falsifiable, as even if we're not going by the numbers that are coming out, and a lot of people are disagreeing with those numbers too. If we simply look at our healthcare industry right now and what's happening to healthcare workers and the overloading of hospitals and just craziness, we were not prepared. The U.S. was not prepared adequately for this, and that could be on purpose. That could be not on purpose. Could just be neglect. Was that always attribute to stupidity rather than malice, or whatever it is? Whatever that fucking saying is, I don't know. But yeah, Daniel, give us your breakdown, and then we'll move to Andrew.
So yeah, I don't think it's fake. I am concerned. I'm not necessarily paying attention to the numbers a whole lot, but I don't think it's fake. So I do disagree with definitely Ron Paul's take on it. I think he's crazy. I don't know why he put that out there, but I am still more concerned about what the government and the state will do during this crisis. And we all know that the government and the people in it say, never let a crisis go to waste, and that's I think that's what they're doing here. I will always be more concerned about what they will do. I think that I'm watching the states right now, especially California, with how they have put out how they have increased police presence and even National Guard and so forth. So I'm just keeping a close eye on that.
Word up. Andrew, what you got?
Well, I know you said you don't want to get into hard numbers, and we don't have to, but I'm looking at them right now.
Yeah, if you got them, go for it.
I know a lot of. Okay, so we've got worldwide, we've got 320,000 confirmed cases. That's confirmed. It's probably double, quadruple that, because no one's testing enough except maybe South Korea. We've got about 100,000 recovered. We've got about 14,000 deaths. I understand what people are trying to get at. It's just another flu thing. Okay, all of this worldwide, this has only reached some countries in the last couple weeks. This thing is still spreading. It's still doing what it needs to do to become worse than a flu, if it's going to. I'm not saying it is or isn't, but it's still in the process. It's not there yet. It's not, the flu is already established. It's something we deal with every year. It's something we talk about every year. This isn't. It's not something we've necessarily dealt with before. So if they want to say people are overreacting, I will definitely agree with that, but I'd imagine the people who are dead would dispute that it's fake. I would imagine the people who are sick would dispute that it's fake. So that's to start with. What people need to understand is that if this just is another flu, hey, guess what? We don't want to have two flus going at the same time. That's bad. Mm-hmm. Especially when you consider the reaction that's happening socially and economically. Two flus plus all of that, we're in trouble.
Yeah, definitely. And the downplaying is what really bugs me for that reason, and for people who are vulnerable to this, who can die. And yes, a lot of people have pre-existing conditions, but that's no reason to downplay this, because this on top of that is causing them to die sooner than their pre-existing conditions would cause them to. I think it's incredibly selfish.
Can I say one other thing, Nick?
Yeah, go for it.
One thing I don't think people are considering about this is different. This is not all the cases, but sometimes people aren't showing symptoms for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So we don't even know, I would say, half of how many people are sick. And they probably haven't even accurately counted how many people have died from this. So people need to understand that they can act like this is another flu, but this isn't acting like another flu in terms of how we determine who has it, how we determine, all of those things about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, the government response that we're seeing does not come around every flu season either. Take that for what you will. But yeah, just the attempts to minimize the numbers. I got into it with someone the other day, or yesterday, maybe day before yesterday, about, we don't have all of the statistics because people aren't reporting when they're sick and whatnot. Therefore, the death rate's lower and blah blah blah. And it's just like, you know what? I don't fucking care right now about arguing those kind of statistics if we're doing it in a way that's going to minimize safety. And I'm not saying government mandated safety, anything like that. That's my biggest problem with all this right now, is everyone saying if the government's telling you to stay in, you have to resist. If the government was saying there's no fucking problem, go about your daily lives, don't worry about it, nothing to see here, they'd be doing the opposite. Because it's just, instantly government bad, I do opposite. That's what's going on with a lot of people.
That's me. That's totally me.
It's possible to handle this.
Oh, you want me to stay inside? Well, now I'm not doing it.
Yeah. That's right. It's possible to not trust the government and to also take something that can hurt people seriously. And what do we always say as anarchists? Take responsibility for yourself. Act right. Do it yourself. That's the whole thing. And there's no reason to pick one side or the other when it comes to, are we going to choose to self-quarantine, take precautions, or are we going to completely ignore it because the government's telling us to? The concerning parts about what's happening are, first of all, the National Guard being rolled out everywhere. Obviously, that's concerning. Second, all the different legislation that the government's trying to sneak in right now. The most concerning one as far as legislation for me is the Justice Department asking Congress for indefinite detention powers to fight coronavirus. How the fuck is that fighting coronavirus? Asking for, incarceration without trial. And this too, what they're asking will last for a year after the state of emergency is lifted.
Yeah, that's like, we're seeing a repeat of what Lincoln did during the Civil War. And we're also seeing states putting out curfews, and it's like, how is this going to combat an illness or a virus? It makes no sense.
Right. I did see an article.
But this is just another power grab.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's they'll never let a good crisis go to waste. We've been saying that pretty often in our personal conversations lately. That's not to say that there's not a crisis, that there's not a real health concern. It's that they will use any opportunity to, when you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. They'll use any opportunity to grab more control over everybody's daily lives. I was trying to say, there was an article that I read, and I don't have it right here with me, but Japan is not imposing as strict a measures as many other places, and they're getting theirs under control much more quickly. And it seems to have a lot to do with people being responsible for themselves and not attempting to attempting not to spread it by being responsible. So and that's another thing we've talked about too. This response is very well could be triggered. The government response could very well be triggered by everyone just fucking off and not paying attention. And it's like, you want more martial law, you want more crackdowns and stuff. Like, this is what they're seeing. They're seeing people treating it nonchalantly, so they're cracking down harder. And I'm not saying, just obey government so that they don't come after you. We never say that. I'm just saying that's what their response seems to be based on right now. That and panicking, because they were minimizing it earlier this year.
I think one thing to consider is that just sort of a follow-up to what you just said is these actions that they're taking, they probably would have taken anyway, but now they can excuse it.
Mm-hmm.
They can look at people disobeying and saying, hey, look at this. Because of this, this is our example. This is what we need to do because of these people. And again, I'm not saying just obey those orders, because fuck that. If whatever the situation is, but they are going to use you, as they always do, as the example,
Mm-hmm.
as the bad person, as the person who had to have armed guards go sit at his house and forcibly quarantine him. That circulated everywhere, over every news outlet. And that's what they do. They use people as examples, and that's never going to change. And that's what they're doing right now.
Absolutely. I think the most infuriating thing outside of what government's doing right now is watching spring breakers down by Florida and what they're saying about this. Just zero regard whatsoever for being responsible when it comes to not transmitting an illness to others. I can't remember the amount of the gathering, but there was one spring break party, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people who are now traveling home, and 9 of them have tested positive thus far. So hotbed of coronavirus, a bunch of people partying and doing who knows what, all in a giant group, and now traveling back to all corners of the country because they said, fuck it, we want to party.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, yeah, we don't need the government to tell us to be responsible. We should be responsible ourselves. We're seeing curfews. We're seeing government closing what they call non-essential businesses in all this. And it's like, I mean, my question is, like, what is a non-essential business, first of all, especially to the government? Who is the government to determine what is essential and what is not, especially for someone who is trying to make a living?
Mm-hmm.
And like, again, it does nothing to stop the spread of it. I think this is just a power grab. I think that people that seek a more authoritarian, totalitarian state are salivating right now. I think they're waiting in the wings.
Mm-hmm. And there we got Jason Boothe. What up, man? I'm loving the dumpster fire.
What's up? Yeah, you like that?
Yeah.
That's my new one.
That's the new official map of California, right?
For the most part, yeah.
How's
This
it
in my
going?
area, at least.
How's it going over there
my
in your
area's
area?
Not terrible. It's not terrible. I mean, we got my county. I'm in Cross County, which is in the eastern Port San Francisco area. I got like 1.1 million people in my county. There's like 42 cases, but the food situation, like a lot of stores are 2/3, 3/4 empty. Like we went to a store the other day, there was no rice or beans or pasta. There was no TP, no eggs. Most of the meat was gone. Still a lot of frozen food. I don't know what's up with that, but
that's because I had been shopping there.
But like he was saying about like the power grab, like we're on, like we had the 6 Bay Area counties kind of act like their own faux states, and we actually had a lockdown order, a shelter in place order from them before the state issued it. And but it's so weird. It's like the weakest shelter in place ever. Like non-essential businesses were told not to go to work. Well, me, like I didn't go to work. I work in computer drafting and design, so I didn't go to work. But my dad and brother who work construction renovations, they're at work.
Mm-hmm.
And like the fast food is open and the restaurants are open, but you can't dine in, so you have to do drive-through or go orders. And then the liquor stores are open, and I still get pizza delivered. And then the cannabis shops are open, and then some gun stores are open, but like the bars are closed and the clubs are closed and the mini golf is closed.
Right.
But like people are still hanging out. Like they're still going to the park.
Yeah.
Like most of the people are still going to work. Like and the public buses are down.
I saw that.
But the taxis and Uber are still running.
Public buses in Tucson, my old stomping grounds, were still running, but they had the front area where the driver is roped off. You weren't allowed to approach. And they were also pretty much empty. I saw pictures from a friend down there, which is interesting. But before you hopped in and joined us, we were kind of going over the idea that it doesn't have to be one or the other. You know, coronavirus is fake, and the government is using this to try to just a total power grab, or coronavirus is real and the government has our best interests in mind. It's possible to be in the gray on this, not black and white.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that they're both. Like the coronavirus is real, whether it's a government conspiracy, whether it's manufactured or whatever. The coronavirus is real, right? COVID-19 does exist. Is it as bad as they say? Absolutely not. I was just literally just recording with Shane Radcliffe, Liberty Under Attack. We were doing a Vaunted podcast on it. And there's like an 80% false positive. Right? False positive for the test results. So even if 5 people get it, 5 people actually have COVID-19, but they say 40 something people have it, well, it still exists, right? I mean, so that's kind of a non sequitur. Is it as bad as they say? Absolutely not. You know, but it is new, and people are afraid of stuff new.
I'd say it as bad as they say depends on who they is when it's happening, because it seems like it's overloading the medical facilities in the U.S. pretty hard. People are getting hit hard. There's not enough to go around for them, working long hours, being conscripted to testing areas. It's pretty wild.
Oh, absolutely. But those are people being brought in, right? Like I said, an 80% false positive, right? So for every 100 people in, only like 20% actually have COVID-19.
Well, whatever
right?
the
So
percentage
80
is,
people of 100 people are false positive.
whatever the percentage is, there's not enough beds for the people who are actually dying.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
And that's one of the scary things. On top of that, we got Boogaloo, we got the fucking dollar collapsing. We got so much shit going on right now. I never wanted it like this. Boogaloo would have been a lot easier without this, I think. And Daniel and I have spoken.
Dollar collapsing. Did you see that?
What's up?
Speaking of dollar, you see that thing out of the Federal Reserve where they're gonna loan $1 trillion a day for the rest of the month?
Yep. Andrew, what sound does that make?
They're not they're not even printing it. It's just ones and zeros on a computer.
Yeah, but
no, it doesn't exist.
There's $1 trillion.
It's not real.
It's more fun to say printer go brrr.
I don't know what's the sound of an economy bursting into flames sound like?
A whimper.
Gunfire.
Yeah, that's
I just don't want to be.
That's the other thing.
I just don't want to be caught naked like I was in the shower when the earthquake happened.
That's right. That's the other thing with all this, the economic impact, guys, and the preppers who are feeling very vindicated right now. People who have prepped and ready for this, whether it's food, self-sustainability, ammo, all that stuff. And I got caught up in the pettiness, and I was like, I'm going to give out some I told you so's. And then I decided almost immediately, you know what? It's better just to try to help people through this. There are some assholes I'll save the I told you so's for, of course, because I'm never giving up pettiness fully. But it's important to, if you haven't prepped before this, to
Well,
prep
there are some
reasonably.
people's that react better to the "I told you so's."
Mm-hmm.
So
That's true.
save those for them. But
Yeah, panic buying
yeah,
is not
proper
prepping.
preparation prevents piss poor performance.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Panic
that's
buying
not
is not
prepping.
prepping.
That's
So
stockpiling
yeah,
or hoarding.
people stockpiling and panic buying. If you have knowledge of being a prepper, share with them, help them out. And even if you have knowledge being a boog boy, I know it sounds silly, but that's something to reach out and help people with as well. Because if printers keep going burr and the dollar does collapse and the economy is done, we're going to be living in a whole new world where all that stuff's going to matter quite a bit.
So what you're saying is we need to stock up on our super male vitality.
Yes. Alex Jones is going to help us through it.
Because I'm way ahead of you.
Yeah. Excellent. Andrew, you looking up numbers over there?
I've got a question.
Oh yeah, go for it. I was waiting.
Yeah, because I've been trying to find information about the false positives, and everything that pulls up is false negatives. So I'm just wondering, do we know where that's coming from?
Yeah,
I'm sure Jason.
Let me grab the link for you. It's let me go back to my notes from Shane.
Because I'm getting articles about false negatives happening, which would obviously be bad.
While you guys are looking this up too, I want to address the sentiment out there that's like, don't trust any of these numbers because they're all coming from government. First of all, they're not all coming from government. Sure, a ton of medical research and the World Health Organization, all that stuff is government funded. But look at the lab in Washington that defied government orders in order to make a test to get things going, to keep people, to try to help people. Mm-hmm. There are people doing stuff outside of the government channels to try to help people. And that's a good place to take an example from, is to be like that. And the people who are offering to help old people who don't have access to toilet paper and stuff because they weren't able to go out and get it, and now they're trapped in their homes. Take care of your community, whether it's on the scale of working in a lab and creating a fucking test that can help people, or helping your community down on a basic level of people that are shut in and in real danger right now. But tell us more about the false negatives.
If anyone is involved...
Go
Are you
ahead,
talking to me, Nick?
Yeah. Whatever you were saying. Sorry about that. Stepped on you.
What I was going to say is, if anyone is involved in trying to do anything like that, if it's possible, you need to try and keep it under the radar, because there was these two guys who created this, I think it was an oxygen pump of some kind, to help people with upper respiratory issues, and they got threatened with a lawsuit immediately, which, they were making pumps.
Yeah, that was out of Italy.
Yeah. So I mean, do whatever you can to help people, but also understand that if it goes viral, there's a potential they're going to shut you down, and with violence if they have to.
And that's they got hit with a lawsuit for trying to help people. I've seen multiple people say this, but one of the best things we could do, well, not we, but the government could do, or maybe, I don't know, whatever, anybody could do to help combat this, is to get rid of the fucking IP laws. So then that shit's not happening, because people are making products and services to help people, and other people are saying, well, hold on, I'm not getting my cut, so let me call the government on you right now. Fuck that shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at another article right now. Looks like technologyreview.com, talking about we're not going back to normal. Because I think today, maybe
absolutely
yesterday.
Not.
Yeah. Their social distancing's here to stay for a while, they're saying, and that's obviously by government order. But I'm going to be practicing that, as I have been since this stuff started happening, by myself independently. But like I'm sure you were about to say, Jason, government's not going to give back the freedoms that they're taking now anytime soon. as we saw with the Department of Justice trying to have this indefinite detention thing, that's going to last for a year after national emergencies if they get it through. Plus, they're trying to pass the assault weapons bans. They just happened to resubmit that bill in January, and it's going up for votes at some point. I don't know exactly where it is there, but things are not going to be the same. And I think the fear is making a lot of people stick their heads in the sand and try to say, it's all going to be over, keep acting normally. It's not going to hurt anything to not. It's not going to hurt anything to prepare for a future that isn't the same. There's no reason to be scared of that if you're going to handle it for yourself and your family the best that you can.
Well, people need to understand that if they want to think, or if the numbers tell them they're confident about it, whatever, that it's not bad, the coronavirus specifically, it's not bad, it's going to blow over like the flu does every year, that's fine. But regardless of what you believe about the coronavirus or response or anything like that, you need to understand that this is, whatever it's doing, the path it's leading us on, we're probably not going to circle back around, regardless of if this is as bad as they say or not. I mean, this is changing because of something that y'all say is not very bad. You just have to, I think people just need to get into the mindset that even if this is just another flu, or even not as bad as the flu, there are big changes coming, and they're coming already. It's happened just in the last month.
Absolutely.
I think the most alarming thing is the what was it that I sent you the other day?
I can't.
I think I sent you, Nick, a House bill about another assault weapons ban.
Right. That's the one I was talking about, yeah.
And I think that and the Department of Justice and what they want to do, I think those are the most alarming things right now. So, yeah, just it's I think this is going to be the new normal, working, with more limited resources, not being able to go to the store like we need, and so forth.
Could be. What you got, Jason? Looks like you're looking into some info.
I was getting that link for him, but we had a lady here in California, South Lake Tahoe, Texas, which is in the Bay Area, and it's a kind of a nice neighborhood. She was robbed for her groceries coming out of the store, like on the way to her car. She jumped, and they took her groceries and then her wallet, or her groceries and then her purse.
Yeah. That sounds like more of the new normal. That, and I've been seeing reports of semi-trucks, their loads getting held up, and people stealing everything out of the trucks, so deliveries aren't making it. And we got some close trucker friends that we all know.
There was a truck out of North Carolina. The police got or police found a stolen truck, and it was loaded with 8,000 pound toilet paper.
Jesus.
Jesus.
That's how much
People
I
need to. Most of this conversation has been on a national or world level. People need to make sure that they're paying attention extremely locally too, because I'm talking about like abuse of power wise, at least. I talked with you a little bit about it, Nick. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm in Virginia, so I get to hang out with Governor Blackface. One of my concerns about him, just politicians in general, is when they're given more powers in these emergencies like this, people like Northam frighten me, because they're going to want revenge for what they didn't get policy-wise that they tried to enact. So people need to pay attention to stuff like that. They need to understand that it's not just the president or the high-level officials. It's your local politicians have more powers as well.
Well, not only that, but like the people that really are affecting us right now, the FDA, the CDC, the National Guard, those aren't elected positions. right? Those are all appointed positions. So you can point to Trump and you can point to the politicians, but they're not the ones that are affecting our daily lives. Like my lockdown for this area, it wasn't created by an elected official, right? It was appointed by the Bay Area Community Health something something something. But those are like paid positions. Like no changing politicians won't change that.
Mm-hmm. There's another interesting thing with this Department of Justice request for indefinite detention, no trial, and all that. Someone posted a map
Goodness.
of sealed case proceedings, and there's 154,552 across the U.S. And 6,592 of those filings were for the month of February this year. And there's a map that breaks down how many there are in each state, and that is pretty concerning. What they're going to do with those should they gain those powers.
What is the rumor? What is the thought behind that? Like, that they're just going to go after these people?
That's the thought. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not super savvy on that kind of stuff, but that would be my thought, and that's the thought of the poster. What do you got, Jason?
Well, there has been like in Kentucky, the person that was ordered quarantined and didn't want to quarantine, and so the police sat outside his house and made him stay in quarantine. I think this is along the same lines. Like, if you don't want to quarantine, the government wants the authority to lock you in a cage or to lock you in, to handcuff you to a hospital bed and make you forced quarantine, which is fucking scary.
Mm-hmm. It is. It is. And it's interesting the things that the National Guard are being used for right now. I was talking to someone in Arizona, and the governor has mobilized the National Guard to stock grocery shelves and food warehouses and things like that. And it's like, why are we sending a bunch of people who are already doing this home and having the National Guard do it like they have any better, health standards than a private business could enforce if they wanted to? That's pretty interesting. The other thing about National Guard that I found interesting too was by leaving it up to each state how to utilize them, at least from the article I read, and how that works with the state of emergency that's been declared, is if it's state-controlled government or governor, in every state-controlled National Guard, then they can use them to supplement law enforcement, versus nationally mobilized National Guard, supposedly they can't. Not sure if you guys saw anything about that either.
I'm not sure. Are you talking about in an instance where, like, there's a federal order to roll it out in every state?
Yeah, if they were going to be federally receive their orders from the federal government, it would be different. But that's not to say they wouldn't do that anyways. And I'll see if I can find that article and post that in the comments. It was one of the articles about which National Emergency Act Trump decided to utilize.
Oh, it's the one involving FEMA.
Okay.
It's the shit. I
don't know. We'll see. We'll get those articles together and drop them in the description too.
Yeah, I think New York, Trump ordered or Trump declared an emergency in New York and rolled out the National Guard, and that released like a bunch of FEMA funds, and then there's supposed to be like a hospital ship docking in New York, and I'm absolutely certain they'll be used like checkpoints and things like that. Like, we have checkpoints here in the Bay Area now.
Well, I heard in Indiana, National Guard was pulling people over and asking why they were traveling and asking for papers and all that too already. So I'm sure that's happening out there. And that's pretty wild. And as far as these medical ships, I believe Governor Inslee here in Washington has requested the USS Mercy, but I haven't heard anything further on that.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Okay, so it's called the Stafford Act.
Mm-hmm.
The Stafford Act Declaration. The Stafford Act grants the president authority to declare a national emergency. Once an emergency is declared, the act allows state governments and tribal authorities to request disaster assistance from the federal government.
Right.
Word for word.
Yep.
Trying to see if there's anything else interesting. Y'all can go ahead.
No.
Yeah, and I'll see if I can find that article. I have it around here somewhere else where they were talking about the distinction between what the states could do with National Guard and what federal government could do with National Guard. But speaking of Trump and his actions and all this, I'm kind of starting to feel like he's gonna drop this next election. I don't think he's gonna win. I think other people feel opposite. But what do you guys think about that?
Well, I think his voter base is going to be affected hard. They are. I would imagine they are the most scared at the moment because his voter base is going to have the most pre-existing conditions. You know, it sounds like I'm being an asshole, but that's just the case. They're generally older. You know, that's just how it is. So they're probably going to be affected pretty hard in the first place. They may be scared to come out of their homes. They may be sick themselves. You know, and not to mention that if this, you know, there are some reports supposedly saying this can last 12, 18 months. If that's the case, they're almost certainly going to push the election out. I don't really know how that works, but I don't see how you could hold it if you're also telling everyone to stay at home, unless they try and do it online now, which would be a fucking disaster as well.
There's also a lot of MAGA people
all
screeching
mail-in
about
ballots.
the stimulus package that Trump is proposing as well. The socialism.
Give me that fucking money.
Give me my money. It's my money. I paid it in taxes.
JG Wentworth, that motherfucker spitting. But yeah, it's that's a whole another can of worms there. That's just adding more fuel to the fire of the economy as well. How was it 1 point something trillion that they're trying to set it at?
Yeah, well, you're trying to send a bunch of people money while also telling them to stay home, not spending money. I mean, it's just a disaster.
And most of the stores are closed because of this the lockdown.
Right.
The shelter-in-place orders.
When you see things happen like this, and then you can't help, even if you're not really a conspiracy theorist, you don't really buy into any of that stuff. But if you see stuff like this, how can you not help but to be like, okay, so they're just doing this on purpose. Like they just want all of this to collapse.
Here's a question. What if the quote-unquote stimulus is really just a parachute to soften the bottom of this collapse? Because they're talking about not one but two different rounds.
Right.
Like there's like three different bills. Like there's the White House bill, there's the Democrat bill, the Republican bill. Like one bill is one check, and then another, like I think the other two bills are two checks of different amounts. So what if it's two checks, like one now and one, you know, in a month or something, and they're parachutes to because this is collapsing. We know it's collapsing, right? There are businesses that will never open their doors again because of these shelter-in-place orders and these non-essential businesses and non-essential workers. What if the stimulus is to do that, just to limit how hard it hits?
That would make sense because they always try to soften the popping of the bubble whenever they can.
Because softening the fall, the government could say, "Hey, we tried to help. Hey, we tried to help. Hey, we tried to help," and people will still lean on government because the government tried to help.
Right.
It's capitalism's fault.
Yeah, totes. Everybody's gonna blame it on something.
That's scary. Like that's really scary when you think about it.
Oh yeah. I don't know. It's just
all right. It could like I mean we could go.
You and I have talked about that book Patriots, Jason, and so much stuff happening. That's the exact exactly the same as the beginning of that book, and I'm sure other books, but in regards to the economy. And someone, I can't remember, I think maybe it was
299 days book series.
Oh, there you go. Yep. I think it
That's
was
based
Sterling
out of Washington.
Reese that was saying too, if people really believe that the dollar is going to be collapsing, that the economy is going to be totally gone, hyperinflation, all that, that's when you'll see people starting to take out massive loans and just, be completely carefree with all of this because they know they're not going to have to pay it back. So I'm keeping a close eye on when that starts as well.
Okay. We have like what, 24 trillion dollar funded national debt, right? The unfunded national debt is like $100 trillion, and then the Fed Reserve is pumping $1 trillion a day into the economy. The U.S. government is running $1 trillion a year deficit. The dollar's already gone, homie.
Yeah.
The dollar's already collapsed.
Yeah. I'm just
like the rest of the world hasn't caught on to it.
No. Well, some have. We're looking at the oil war, the petrodollar war with Russia, and who else is involved with that? China, and then Saudi Arabia. Is Saudi Arabia even still trying to have our backs on that? The petrodollar's back? Because that has barely seen any headlines other than people, gas prices down. Woo! People are loving that. And then also another thing that hasn't seen
It's election year. Gas prices are always down in election year.
That's true. That is true. But what about the carpet bombing of the Middle East that's going on right now too? That's something I've been woefully uninformed on as well, but I'm aware that's going on. There's been all kinds of airstrikes and things after we were supposed to have been getting ready to pull out before all this happened.
The Afghanistan peace deal completely fell apart, which if you know anything about government and the Taliban, you knew it was going to happen. But then in addition to that, like the U.S. government is hitting Iranian targets in Iraq right now.
Yep.
So it's
government is wilding pretty much is what's going on. It's just, yeah. We've gotten off into a whole lot of weeds because there's a lot of weeds surrounding this.
I haven't even brought up Cloward Piven. All right, I haven't even brought up Cloward Piven.
I'm just saying for the people listening, this is what these kind of talks are going to be like. So that's what's going to happen. And
yeah, especially about this. I mean, there's too much stuff to focus on.
Yeah.
I kind of touched on it a little bit in a post I made the other day. It's just we cannot possibly process in a normal circumstance without all the shit going on. We cannot process all the information that comes to us, and now we definitely can't. It's even more now. There's just no way to process it all properly.
Well, I know it's important to stay informed and to see what's going on so you can be aware of what might be coming your way. But holy shit, have I ever enjoyed putting down the phone for a few hours at a time, or maybe even a day, and like getting the garden ready like my wife and I were doing yesterday. And so yeah, that's something to do during quarantine is start your gardens, get your yards cleaned up, get your houses cleaned up, all that kind of stuff. Take your mind off it because the trees don't fucking care. The birds don't fucking care right now, and you can go enjoy that in the beautiful spring weather. And plus you'll be doing something productive, keeping your house clean, keeping your yard clean, because who knows what the fuck's going to happen. Jason and I deal with wildfires every year in our states. I don't know what kind of natural disasters you got going on in Virginia, Andrew, but
these late season rains, thank goodness.
Yeah, you gotta think ahead of more than what's happening day to day right now to what's going to be fucked up later. And that actually just popped into my head was the wildfires and the federal funding people are going to be asking for those, because as usual they'll probably let them burn to a certain amount of days and leave it out of control until they can get federal funding. But guess what, the fucking money machines are going burr until then. There's not going to be any money.
California, Oregon, Washington, they're broke.
Yep.
They're broke. California last week, they wrote Newsom a blank check and then suspended the Senate.
Jesus Christ.
Like they literally wrote him a $1 billion check, and then the state Senate's like, no, we're not coming to work for a little while because social distancing.
Jeez. That's the other thing too people are complaining about too. That's the first instance I've heard about government not coming to work during all this. That's something people are complaining about. They don't want us to gather in groups of more than 2, 5, 10, whatever. And yet all these government press conferences and stuff are just chock full of people.
But the IRS gave us an extra 90 days to pay taxes.
Oh boy. And that is a little bit of bait for people looking for those Trump bucks too, because they're saying they're going to base it on filings, but I saw today that they're going to base it on 2018 filings. So if you haven't filed up to this point because you're not interested in playing that game, trying to file this year's is not going to do anything to help you. You have to have been filing, and I know plenty of people who are not going to be getting these Trump bucks because they're not playing that tax game. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's yeah, I agree with you, Nick. Going back a little bit about doing something productive, it's this kind of shit can be depressing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very much so.
It can be really depressing. So you don't have to, if you don't want to go to the store, you want to do some distancing, that's fine. But like, I'm just gonna go get the yard cleaned up today. Just do anything. So because if you're not right, and if you're not in the right mindset, you're probably not in the right mindset to protect yourself or your family or anything else either. So just do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. Not only that, but like when to get philosophical with that just a little bit, like when you have a negative mindset, it limits your available options.
Yes.
Right. You don't see all options on the board. You don't see because your negative mindset, it literally closes your mind to things outside your normal realm of perception. So trying to maintain a positive mindset, even in this situation, there's absolutely positives.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all the people that have recovered. Look at all the communities that have come together. Look at we're recording later, Anarchy Among Friends. We're recording later, and we're going to cover nothing but positive stories about things that have happened during this incident, or during this pandemic, or whatever they call it. So there are absolutely positive things out there, and you can focus on the positives, or as you said, do something positive. Clean the house. Have an impromptu dance party with your kids. Watch your favorite movie on repeat. Do lazy days, self-care. Take a long bubble bath. Right? Jump on YouTube. Binge watch something on Netflix. There's absolutely things that you can do to stave off the negativity.
Mm-hmm. Go shooting.
Like, go shoot.
Yes.
Yeah, go shooting.
Yes.
Absolutely viable skill. Go shooting.
Read
start
survival
your seeds.
books.
Yep.
Yes.
All that stuff. And yeah, you might have to.
There's thousands of them.
You might have to turn off the productivity side sometimes as well, especially if you're going shooting and training and reading survival books and stuff, because that does put you in a mindset of like getting hyped up, and that can freak you out a little bit sometimes. We have been thinking about Boogaloo for a long time.
Creates hyper awareness.
Exactly. Prepping, all that stuff. And when shit started getting real, even I found myself with anxiety that I've never had before. And it bleeds over into my dogs, my wife, because they can see it from me, because I'm kind of leading this charge, and it's just got to step back, take it easy, and, be calm and collected for the people around you, because not doing that is only going to lead to panic. And like you said, Jason, you don't want that in the situations where you need to be aware.
No, when you panic, you make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And you, like, in a lot of situations like that you're talking about, you can't make mistakes, or the mistakes you can make have to be very, very small. So you have to take time to calm the mind. Like, when you panic, dread starts to appear. When you dread, your mind changes and you go to that negative place.
Yep.
And your anxiety kicks up, as you said. And most people, this is an absolute fact. Most people, when lost in the woods, they lay down and die because they've given up hope. That's not a direct correlation with what's happening now, but if you can stay positive and you can maintain the hope, well, then you can keep moving forward and you can keep pressing, and you can change in yourself, and then you can affect change elsewhere. So,
and I know
my philosophical 2 cents.
Go ahead, Andrew.
On the this is kind of the other side of this. If you are in a good state of mind where you're doing productive shit and you're not depressed or anxious or anything like that, it's also potentially a good thing to I think we've talked about this on one of the other times we did the show, Nick, is mentally preparing yourself for things that can happen if it gets real bad, because you need to reflect on some things that you may have to do. You need to go through scenarios in your minds about plans that you have, and you need to ask yourself genuine questions internally about if you're ready for something like this, if you can handle something like this, if you have the right plan, the right gear. It's good to reflect on those things as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the survival mindset.
Yes. And Andrew, during the whole Virginia deal with Governor Blackface and whatnot, and meeting up and making new friends and new groups, whether it's for Boog and whatnot, that's something that can be continued now too, is continuing to make those contact groups for if shit gets bad, if you need to call people because they're coming for you, whether it's quarantine, arrests, whatever, red flag laws, because that stuff's not stopping. Red flag laws aren't stopping just because of this.
And it's probably going to get worse.
Exactly. And it's not just building a team for that anymore. It maybe never should have been, but you're building a whole team for our return to whatever it is, because it's not going to be normalcy. It's going to be a team for what other side we come out on, whatever that may be. So practice, of course, all the defensive skills and everything you need with your people and the comms and all that, but practice sustainability, trade, Agorist networks. This is a perfect time for Agorist networks. There's some speakeasies starting to happen. Alcohol sales, out of these closed down bars that maybe they shouldn't be doing that, but it's a good time to be building stuff like that too. This is how people survive for real. All right. We're about at an hour, guys. Daniel had to drop out early. He's got some stuff going on, but thanks, Daniel, for being here. You guys got anything to add at the end of this?
I just want everyone to be safe. I mean, again, we're kind of beating a dead horse maybe, but we're probably not going to return to normalcy. Even if this virus ends up being not so bad, the response already is that so bad. So just understand that that's taking place, and there's no room for procrastination anymore. That's not a thing anymore. It's too late for that. You just have to do it. If you think of something you need, you just have to get it.
Yep. To piggyback on that, there's something I learned in survival training. It's STOP. Stop, think, observe, plan. Right? Stop what you like. If you find yourself panicking, stop what you're doing. Think about what's going on. Observe what's going on around you, and then make a plan. And then follow those steps, and you'll be a lot better off than these people panic buying 14 boxes of Twinkies.
Absolutely.
Like, Twinkies have a shelf life. Just saying. Twinkies have a shelf life.
Fucking A. All right. On that note, everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and in the face of all this, remember, total freedom, no exceptions. Enemy of the State's Dank Podstash is sponsored by Anarchy Lifting. Go to anarchyliftingcoaching.com to learn more.